Welcome to tonight's debate between Alice Brady and Shane Pichet, both running for City Council in North Providence. The candidates have agreed to the schedule of the debate, the terms, the times. We will begin with Alice in an opening statement, 2 minutes each. We will follow with Shane. The questions will then go Shane, Alice, Alice, Shane, alternating. We will end with each candidate asking one question that they have never seen. They're playing to each other. And then we will end with opening statements. Please, no applause. At the end, you can stand up and cheer your candidates wildly. The limits, again, are 2 minutes for responses, 30 seconds for rebuttal, and I, of course, won't cut someone off mid-word or mid-phrase, but we will cut them off. And we have timekeepers with placards. So let's start with Alice, 2 minutes. Please tell your audience about yourself.
Good evening. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate this evening, and I want to thank those of you who are in attendance who have taken time out of your busy schedules to attend tonight's debate. I think this debate will allow for certain misconceptions resulting from my opponent's campaign to be cleared up. It has been an honor and it's been a privilege to represent the residents of the town of North Providence for the past 4 years. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a 37-year resident of the town of North Providence. I'm a registered nurse. I have a master's degree in health education and a master's degree in counseling, as well as a doctoral degree in educational leadership. I'm retired from the North Providence school system after 16 years of service, the last being a guidance counselor at the Birchwood Middle School. I also worked as a certified nurse teacher for the City of Providence for 4 years. I've served the students and families of the Maryville, Wayland, Stephen Only, Centerdale, and Birchwood schools. I'm a past president of Rhode Island Certified School Nurse Teachers Association, and was a recipient of your award, the Rhode Island School Nurse Teacher of the Year Award for 2006, the Rhode Island Department of Health Childhood Immunization Program Award for Excellence in the Care of Rhode Island School Children for 2004. I'm a member of Sigma Theta Tau International Honor Society of Nursing. Despite my opponent intentionally misleading the residents in his campaign, and especially in the past few weeks in the media, I was elected 4 years ago when the town's integrity was being questioned, and I provided a much-needed stability in the way the government is operated, and I've been an advocate for the needs of the residents. I've kept my promises, including working for open and transparent government by delivering live streaming of our town council meetings. Once again, I look forward to an informative, lively debate this evening.
Thank you. Shane, 2 minutes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank Mrs. Brady for joining us this evening and accepting our invitation for this debate. It was quite the task to put this on, and I appreciate her coming. I would also like to thank Ms. Joan Retsinas from the League of Women Voters for moderating this event. I would like to thank my family, my fiancée Julianne and my baby Ava, for supporting me and being patient with me during this campaign. And most of all, I'd like to thank all of you, the residents of North Providence, who came here tonight, so you can see the 2 candidates that you have as options for your council at large. My name is Shane Pichet, and I'm a lifelong resident of the town of North Providence. I've been here almost 30 years, and I love where I grew up. I was very proud of the community I grew up in. My grandparents moved here in 1977, and this was a lifelong accomplishment for them. Coming to this town from the Central Falls, Pawtucket area, they made it. They worked all their lives to get here. My grandmother raised me. I was fortunate to have that. And she taught me a lot of life lessons, and she's responsible for the person I am today. One of the lessons she taught me was about sacrifice, and that's what this election is. It's sacrifice. You sacrifice your time. You sacrifice time with your family to do the right thing. And what the right thing for North Providence is, we need representation 100% of the time that's going to move this town forward in the right direction. I believe I'm the best candidate to represent our community, and this debate actually provides a great example why. My opponent had to seek legal representation to negotiate the terms of this debate. Now, what I can't understand is how are you supposed to represent the people of North Providence when you can't even represent yourself to negotiate a debate, a simple debate? So, again, we have a very important election coming up on November 4th, and I know that I have the ability, the will, and what it takes to move the town forward. We need representation of people that are going to look out for our best interests 100% of the time.
Thank you. We'll start with the questions. Again, the candidates prepared these questions and the candidates have seized the questions. So we begin with a question from Alice to Shane. The subject is federal forfeiture monies. The question reads, when you are elected as a member of the town council, you swear to uphold the laws of the United States, the state of Rhode Island, and the town of North Providence. Do you feel that we should abide by Ordinance 14-004, which was signed into law by the mayor and approved by the town solicitor, and provided for all expenditures from the federal forfeiture monies be approved by the town council?
Thank you for the question. When I'm elected as our new town councilor at large, I will abide by all applicable laws and ordinances, and as all elected officials should. Now, the question relating to the particular ordinance that is referenced in this question, which is 14-004, is a question that ordinance is a operating budget ordinance. That ordinance changes yearly. So for me to say that I would abide by that, I don't know if that ordinance would be in effect, when I'm elected. But to discuss the issue, because I know where it's going, Ordinance 14-004 does not address federal forfeiture funds. I actually have the ordinance here, and nowhere does it say federal forfeiture funds. For instance, the Google settlement, the Super Google settlement money is what's at hand here, and that falls under the auspices of the Department of Justice. Those monies are the result of an equitable sharing program that we have, a law enforcement program, and the program still clearly states that typically the chief of police will determine where those funds are spent. So again, as I said, I will follow all laws applicable to the position of town council, and when we revise or look at that budget, I'll follow whatever ordinance is in place at the time.
Thank you. Mrs. Brady, 30 seconds.
Yes, just to start off with, I most certainly did not seek legal representation to participate in the debate. It's common and accepted practice when engaging in a debate to have a third party coordinate the arrangements. It was not a requirement, and it was my choice to do that. I actually had expected that you would have had someone coordinate for you. At any rate, the law is the law. Wouldn't it be better to have 7 council members approve spending of the money rather than one person? It comes down to checks and balances in open government.
Thank you. The next question is for Mrs. Brady. DJ. The question is, Mrs. Brady, why have you recused yourself on more votes than any other council member in the last 4 years? 2 minutes.
Thank you. The last time I checked, being ethical was something the people of North Providence were looking for when I and others took over after a tough time, and I think they're still looking for that. And I'll continue to be ethical in spite of the distorted reporting by my opponent using percentages and ratios to mislead the residents. I was elected at a time when the integrity of the town council was at its absolute lowest. My election was one of those that brought integrity back to the town council. I don't believe there's one member of the town council that not has recused himself or herself since I took office. If a member is absent from one regular town council meeting, the number of votes missed would approximate the number of my recusals. Further, I've never missed a regular town council meetings in my 4 years on the town council. I've voted on 97.7% of all votes before the town council over 4 years, and in a small town like North Providence, where everyone knows everyone else, I don't think anyone, including my opponent, can promise or predict how many times they can be faced with a conflict. I promised to be ethical. That's what I did 4 years ago. It's what I've done, and it's what I'll continue to do if I'm reelected. And I think the fact of the matter is, we have a town council, including myself, who take ethics very, very seriously. None of us have been found in violation of the ethics code during our tenures, and that is a record that I'm very proud of.
Yes, Mrs. Davis. Well, no one's accused you of having ethical violations. The situation we have at hand here is you cannot vote on matters that make up 75% of the town budget. Now, I have in front of me every recuser that's here. They include police, they include fire, they include the school department. Those particular topics account for a lot of money in this town, and they need to be represented because these people are the ones paying those bills, and they need somebody to look out for their best interest. And that's what I'll do once elected.
The next question is for Mr. Pichet on tax relief.
Yes.
The present mayor has raised taxes for several years during his tenure. If elected, would you support tax relief for the residents, and how? 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely, I will support tax relief. This is one of the major issues in my decision to run and seek this office. The solution to stabilizing our taxes is very simple. We have a lot of commercial real estate in this town that is vacant. If we can work to make our town more desirable for businesses to come in and increase and expand our commercial tax base, we can stabilize and reduce our residential rates. My goal, once elected, would be to fill every piece of commercial property in this town, making the town affordable for business. My opponent has been here for over 4 years and done nothing to help our tax rate. In fact, as Ms. Brady clearly pointed out in her ad from the Breeze, she's voted approved on the last 4 budgets. So any tax increase that was in those budgets, she's voted for. I can tell you right now, I will not support tax increases. Okay? I will support creative solutions that will allow this town to stabilize our tax rate and move forward. My opponent has done nothing in 4 years. For any of us, I haven't seen, she can't speak to one thing that she's done to help alleviate the tax burden in this town. So I can promise you, once we get elected, come November 4th, we will work to make North Providence affordable. We won't talk about it, we will be about it.
Thank you. Ms. Brady, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Right off the bat, my opponent is opening up with another misconception or another blatant lie. As a matter of fact, I voted against tax increases during this past budget season. And I don't understand how my opponent, the mayor, who supported that tax increase, that tax burden on our residents, says that he's waiting for my opponent to prevail in November so that he can have a rubber stamp council.
Thank you. The next question is for Mrs. Brady. You are working to keep North Providence affordable, yet your voting record shows you were voted against several revenue-generating projects, such as the solar energy farm voted to close, the bin station, and your voting actions have supported freezing the Google funds. How is voting against new revenue or free revenue for the town working to keep North Providence affordable?
Thank you. Again, you are misleading the voters, and you do not have an understanding of the issues. Regarding the solar energy farm, there were 2 proposals. For the first one, the administration gave us nothing, no documentation, no estimates, no idea of what the final liability or solid revenue numbers were. We didn't even know if there was a better solar project available for the town, and that's why I voted against it. However, the second solar project was reviewed extensively by the administration, the council, and renewable energy attorneys. This plan will save the town hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm certainly glad we're in the final stages of its approval. With that being said, I'm glad I didn't support the first proposal. Now let's move on to the VIN station. The administration said the VIN station was approved by the DMV, and it was not. To continue the VIN station would have created a terrible liability for the town, and I would not do that. The Rhode Island Dealers License Board said you cannot commingle a VIN station with a dealership, so what I did was I voted to support the amendment that the DMV supported as well. Further, it's a shame that the well-respected business owner of the dealership was led to believe by the administration that it had been approved. Now, regarding the third part of your question, the Google fund freezing, just like with the other two issues, you don't have an understanding of the Google forfeiture money either. The Department of Justice froze the money because the town's administration was in violation of strict guidelines and regulations. At this point, I think it's important for everyone here to understand that my opponent is purposely distorting the truth and the facts. He obviously doesn't understand the issues and has not done due diligence or research on any of these matters. The town ordinance that the mayor signed supports that the council approve the federal forfeiture money.
Thank you. Mr. Piche, 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Brady, first of all, the original solar energy farm was going to generate about $100,000 a year with money's coming back to the town from, excuse me, the selling of the energy. That money would have generated approximately $300,000 year to date. That's money that the town could have used as opposed to taking tax dollars out of residents' pocket. You didn't support that. You supported to close the VIN station. The VIN station was generating $46,000 a year. You went to
the rules, 30-second rebuttal. Let's move on to infrastructure. The question is to Mr. Piche. It is widely known that certain parts of our town's infrastructure have been neglected and are in deplorable condition. How would you proceed to address our infrastructure issues? 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, there are many parts of the town that do, in fact, need improvement. I find this question quite concerning coming from a person who has been on the council for more than 4 years and has done nothing to improve the issues. I would be embarrassed if the town was neglected and in deplorable condition under my watch. Again, this issue is a significant factor in my decision to seek office. I can assure you that I would never let the conditions of the town's infrastructure be neglected and deplorable under my watch. Next year, we make our final deficit reduction bond payment. That will free up $2 million, over $2 million in our town's budget. I will suggest that we establish a road repaving program, and within 5 years, every road in the town will be repaved or repaired into the standards that are acceptable to our community. I will be sure this program will also make funds available to address the drainage issues that we have in town. Many of our residents, suffer from severe drainage issues. When it rains, their houses flood. That is a problem. We as a community, we deserve safe, clean, and sanitary environment to live in. Again, over the last 4 years, my opponent, who continues to claim that she's done all these things, has done nothing on her record. You can look at it. She's done nothing to support us as a community. Can she point to one thing that she's done in our best interest to improve our quality of life?
Okay. Mrs. Brady.
Thank you. The infrastructure issue is primarily an issue of the administration. They have not put in place a program to address the sewers. I serve on the claims committee, or the roads. Besides long-term planning that's not in place, immediate relief to the residents with all the sewer claims is long overdue. What we ought to be doing is taking some of the surplus money, which is $7 million, to repair the town sewer system and pay the claims of the people who have sewage backing into their homes. One person recently sued the town. It's disgusting that this has gone on so long.
Thank you. The next question, back to Mrs. Brady. How can you justify using taxpayers' money to hire an attorney who is not licensed to practice law in the state of Rhode Island and to actively lead to the freezing of Google funds?
Thank you. Thank you. Again, my opponent is uninformed, misinformed, does not do his due diligence or any research. The attorney can practice law in Rhode Island. The Rhode Island Supreme Court provides for non-Rhode Island attorneys to practice under the supervision of a licensed Rhode Island attorney, and that is what we had in compliance with Supreme Court Rule 5.5. In reality, what really happened, which no one wants to talk about, is that the law firm accomplished two things for the town of North Providence. First, it brought the town into compliance with federal regulations with regard to the forfeiture money, aka Google money, at a time when the administration was not following the rules. The reason why there's a hold on the Google money, it's not because of any action of the town council or these attorneys, it's because the administration was not in compliance with the Department of Justice guidelines. The freeze is not a result of anything the town council did, but it's due to the non-compliance. In actuality, I and my fellow council members voted in May to expend $400,000 from the forfeiture funds, aka Google funds, to support public safety. And we're still waiting. We're still waiting for the list of expenditures from the administration. Now, the second benefit was that the law firm established a whistleblower system. We were required by law from the Auditor General to establish a whistleblower procedure, and to date, 40 complaints have been filed. Thank you.
No, Mrs. Brady, I have done due diligence, and I have documentation that shows at the time when the council hired that attorney, he was in fact not licensed to practice law in the state of Rhode Island, as well as the firm that he was representing was not licensed to practice law in the state of Rhode Island, which, by the way, can be considered a misdemeanor. As for the administration, the agreement in the safety program says that the chief of police is actually the one who should be recommending where the spending goes, and it would be excuse me.
Thank you. 30 seconds. Mr. Teacher.
Yes.
Here is the next question. Quality of life. How would you work to change the overall quality of life for our residents, and especially the youth of our community? 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, first of all, quality of life, in my opinion, is a mindset. And the biggest thing we need to do in this town is we need to restore pride, and we need to restore the unity back in our community. We need representatives who work together and put personal and political differences aside to make decisions that are best for all of our town residents. That's where quality of life begins, working towards positive improvements to the community. As many of you may know, I coached the North Providence Jets organization for 12 years, and I played there for 8 years. So I can understand the challenges that a youth goes through in our town and what they face. We must invest in the youth in our community. We must be sure that they have all the opportunity they need to succeed. We need clean, safe parks. We need schools, we need great teachers, we need schools that are updated, and we need schools that provide the correct learning environment for the youth in the town. We need to provide positive family activities. We need to reinforce family in the community. And we're fortunate to have resources like Evans Field, like Stephen Only Park, and like Governor Noddy Park and the new Camp Meehan that's going to be done very shortly, that's going to bring in revenues for the town and provide family functions. That's what's going to bring the town and bring the quality of life back up, is providing a better opportunity for our community. It's up to our elected officials to make sure that the quality of life in North Providence remains great and continues to get better. And that's what I will do once I'm elected as the next town councilor at large.
Thank you. Mrs. Brady, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I hope my opponent is taking notes so he can look up all the statutes that he doesn't understand later. That being said, regarding his response to quality of life, the well-being of the youth of our community is very important to me as a school nurse and a guidance counselor. I've helped support many students and their families over the years. I've served on the North Providence Substance Abuse Task Force, and one area that benefits our youth are our parks. We need to come up with funding resources that could come from the surplus money, not just Camp Meehan, to repair the tennis courts, basketball courts, and playgrounds. Thank you.
Next question, back to Mrs. Brady. You stated to investigative reporter Jim Hummel that you must seek legal counsel regarding ethics conflicts on matters that account for approximately 3/4 of the town's budget. So how can you in good faith ask the residents of this community to be their voice when ethically you have to remain silent and cannot vote on matters including police, fire, and school that equal the more than 75% of the town's budget? 2 minutes.
Thank you. There's nothing my opponent has been doing more than distorting my alleged recusals on 75% of the budget. That is a total fabrication. I have voted on 100% of the final budgets for the past 4 years that I've been a councilwoman. Regarding the town budget, the only matters I recuse myself on for the police and fire departments are predominantly contractual obligations that the town council cannot change anyway, as they are determined through collective bargaining with the mayor. Any mention of them within the budget is purely informational, and it's not open to change by the town council. I vote on the school department budget for the entire appropriation according to Rhode Island general law, and I have done so for 4 years. Yes, I did get an ethics opinion. To be ethical and honest in light of the history of North Providence, that's not a bad thing. I would hope most people would agree with me on that. For my opponent to question my pursuit of an ethics opinion actually brings his level of ethics into question.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, 30 seconds.
Yes, Mrs. Brady. The bottom line is, what you're saying to the community is that you'll vote on the cake, but you won't pick the ingredients. The ingredients are what make up that budget, and we need representation. If it doesn't matter that you vote on these topics, then why do we have votes for these topics? Doesn't make sense to me. I think that North Providence needs people that can make decisions without conflict 100% of the time.
Thank you. We go back to Mr. Boucher. This is a question on character and integrity. How do you feel that your background positions you to handle the role of a town councilman? 2 minutes.
Thank you. I've been very fortunate in my life to have a lot of opportunities. They've provided me with significant experience in both business and in life. I understand as a small business owner the everyday struggles and challenges that we go through. I understand budgets and payroll. I understand how difficult it can be to work with strong personalities, and that great leadership can work together with those of different opinions and can provide solutions that can be agreed upon and benefit the entire community. My opponent has clearly demonstrated during her time at the council that she can't work with other people. She continues to vote one way and one way only. Now, I understand, Mrs. Brady, that you say you're looking out for the best interest of the people, but I can't see that the administration is wrong 98% of the time. But it's clear that you vote with a certain faction 98% of the time. The things you voted against have cost this town money, you've cost us revenue, and you haven't done anything. And I can see in 4 years you haven't done anything other than maybe put the council meetings on television. What have you done to benefit this town? Again, this is a significant reason why I ran. I think my character and my experience will help represent this community, and I'll be a better representative for this community because, again, my opponent for the last 4 years has been persuaded to vote with a political faction, has not shown the ability to stand on our own and do what's best for us.
Thank you. Mrs. Brady?
Thank you.
30 seconds.
I vote my conscience, and I don't know of anyone who is supporting me on my campaign who's come out and ever called me a rubber stamp. I review the data, and I make decisions based on what I hear from my residents and on what's actual facts after my analysis. My entire life has revolved around helping others. I'm an RN, a wife, a mother, and a college teacher. On the other hand, when it comes to background and how you would be a good councilman, everyone's heard about your Facebook pages and pictures. It's not the type of person who's a good role model for our youth.
Thank you. The rules are the rules. Mrs. Brady, we go back to you. This is the final question that the candidates have seen. So the last one for you is, Mrs. Brady, 2 minutes. You claim you are for transparency in government. You pride yourself on being responsible for the televising of council meetings. However, in the last council meeting 14 days ago, you voted behind closed doors in a secret vote with no public hearings to spend over $1.2 million of taxpayer money. How is voting in secrecy transparent?
Again, this is another example of my opponent's lack of knowledge when it comes to public administration and laws. Thank you for acknowledging my transparency. Yes, I have been open and I've been transparent throughout my tenure on this council, and this is a great example about how you are ignorant of the open meetings law and its appropriate applications. The open meeting law makes provisions for these types of meetings for real estate purchases. That being said, my opponent stated publicly that, and as you just said in your question, that this was some secret meeting, and it was not. It was a meeting conducted in executive session under the Open Meetings Act. It had to do with the purchase of real estate for public purposes. There is a specific provision for that in the law. This was one of several meetings that took place, the first being held May 12th of 2014 as a public meeting. The mayor, his chief of staff, and his solicitor were all present. What my opponent does not state is that the video will show that upon completion of the session, all of the videos taken in executive session were announced and confirmed in open session, and there was an item on for further discussion publicly, and while the mayor and the chief of staff were the only ones that took advantage of that time to speak, my opponent sat silently in the audience and didn't speak on the issue. If he thought something was wrong, no one can understand why he didn't get up and speak at that meeting, because it took him and his supporters a whole week to figure out how to twist the issue around to make it sound like the town council did something wrong. This council abides by each and every provision of the Open Meetings Law. It's never been accused of violating the law. That's something I'm proud of. Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Brady, I would make sure that that was done out in the open. I understand that there's the ability.
You're violating the open meeting.
No, I'm not violating the open. The bottom line is you voted to spend $1.2 million of taxpayer money when we could use Google funds at no cost to the taxpayer to purchase land across from the high school. How is that looking out for the town residents' pocket? How is that making North Providence more affordable? You want to continue to answer that?
We've summarily ended the part where the candidates have composed the questions and seen them in advance. So the next two questions are from the candidates to the candidates. We will begin with Mrs. Brady asking the question to Mr. Piche. He will have 2 minutes and she will have 30 seconds to rebut. So Mrs. Brady, your question to Mr. Piche.
In the recent past, you posted all over your Facebook page and social media that you thought the town of North Providence was a crap hole. You criticized our current mayor, and in the 2 years since, you failed to do anything about your beliefs, however ill-conceived they may be. You failed to place yourself on one single town council agenda like others have done when they're passionate about issues, and until most recently, failed to even attend any town council meetings. Keeping in mind the one you did attend recently, you sat in silence in the audience. How can you possibly think that the people of North Providence could believe that you would be an advocate for them and their town, as I have been, when you've done nothing? I mean, the information is here.
Well, Mrs. Brady, I can tell you that the issues you speak of and the comments that I made, I'll stand by those comments because those comments are made out of frustration. There was a time, and I'll say it like this, I love this town. I told people all my life I breathe blue and gold. And I know that this can be a great community. The bottom line is we have poor leadership. We lack leadership on this town council. The truth is, let me tell you this, here's the truth. Most of the people that I know that are my age have moved out of town, and that's the shame because you know what, I was on the same track. And then I sat and I thought to myself, I said, you know what, why should I have to be forced out of my community? No, I am going to do something about it, and that's what I made the decision to do it because I have a young family, and we've made the decision that North Providence is where we're going to raise our family, and it needs to be the community it was when I grew up as a kid. And that's what I'll do as council person. I will look out for all the residents all the time, not play political games, not sit up on the town council meeting, and you want to talk about not saying a word. Okay, if anybody's been to a council meeting or saw anything, there's only one person who gets a word in those meetings, and we know what that situation is about. But if you want to continue, if you're going to attack my character based on Facebook posts, Well, let me tell you, I felt it at the time, and that's what it is. Since then, feelings have changed. And I know that once elected to this town council, I will represent the people 100% of the time, Mrs. Brady. 100% of the time, I will be there without conflict. I don't have any conflicts, Mrs. Brady, okay? One last thing, because I have a few minutes left. Very simple question to the people in this audience tonight. If you owned a business, would you hire an employee that could only do their job a portion of the time, or would you hire an employee that could do their job 100% of the time? That's the choice you have in front of you this evening. Anything that I need to know, I will know coming into those council meetings. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. Mrs. Brady has been pigeonholed by a political faction, and she continues to vote that way, and it's not in our best interest. We can talk to the residents of this community. We're in her home district, in District 2. She can't figure out a traffic problem. You can't straighten out a traffic violation, but you want to represent the town.
Mrs. Brady, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Again, one never knows when they may need to recuse, and the Ethics Commission is concerned about those people who don't recuse, who should be recusing. I would only have assumed that you would defend yourself on the issue brought up before, but the fact of the matter is you've shown your true colors as a person who lacks good judgment and moral character that's expected of a council person. It's embarrassing to hear you justify speaking about our mayor and our town with such vulgar language with your Facebook postings, and your postings and actions have spoken volumes for your character, and it's not something the town of North Providence wants.
The next question is for Mr. Pichet to ask Mrs. Brady.
So, Mrs. Brady, I've been accused along this campaign of saying anything to get elected. So, why don't we clear the air? Why don't you explain to everybody in the audience tonight what part of the budget, what percentage of the budget you cannot vote on? And if you did own a business, would you hire a person who could not do their job 100% of the time?
Mrs. Brady, 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. As I said before, I have voted on 97.7 of all of the votes that have come before the town council over the 4-year period. There are certain line items that I recuse from because I'm honest and ethical, and I have voted on every budget that has come before the council. We had a workshop a while back from the Ethics Commission, and if you have been to any meetings, you will see that other people recuse also. And the concern of the Ethics Commission is not the people who recuse, it's the people who don't recuse. If someone was absent for just one town council meeting, it would approximate my total number of recusals, and it's, I'm providing honest, open, transparent government by proper disclosure according to the Ethics Commission. There are thousands of people who recuse, and I'm one of those people when it is appropriate to do. And I do know that when I've been going door to door, and I have been going door to door every day, I've been greeted by some of our residents who will say, I'm going to vote for you because you're honest about recusing. Mrs. Brady, my concern is the people who sit on boards, who sit on committees, and who don't recuse. So that being said, I stand by my record. I am eager and happy to serve the residents of our town, and I want to again reiterate, I'm honest and I have integrity, and that's the reason that I recuse. Thank you.
Mr. Pichet, 30 seconds, sir.
I was giving advice a long time ago. Anybody that continues to tell you that they're honest and have integrity, who are they trying to convince? Mrs. Brady, the fact is you've recused yourself on this council, and it's an unacceptable amount of recusals. And any council member that doesn't go out of their way to make sure that they're at every council meeting is not doing their job, and they don't belong there either. We need people that are there and that can vote on our behalf 100% of the time, and you just cannot do that.
Thank you. Now we go to the final closing statement. As we began. We end as we began. Mr. Brady 2 minutes, and then Mr. Pichet 2 minutes. So,
Thank you. Once again, and in closing, I would like to say that my opponent should really thank me for my recusals, because if I didn't have them, he wouldn't have a platform, because my recusals are the only thing he's been talking about since he filed his papers. Now, back to the closing. I only have 1 minute and 40 seconds. Okay. I do, from the bottom of my heart, I want to sincerely thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate this evening, and I want to thank all of you who are here this evening who have taken time from your busy schedule to attend the debate. I believe this debate has clearly shown the difference in the candidates in this race, and has shown why the voters of the town of North Providence should re-elect me to the position of Councilwoman at Large. This debate has shown that, unlike my opponent, I possess the much-needed background and experience to continue to move this town forward and create a better environment for its residents. My campaign platform and my beliefs are what this town and its residents need, and not the loud, empty, political rhetoric that the mayor is waiting for out of my opponent. As the mayor has said, he's waiting for my opponent to be elected so he can have total control. Total control. I believe that what the residents want and what they need is a democracy working for the people and allowing them to have a say in how their government works in this town, and not how one man thinks it should work. It's been an honor and a privilege to represent the residents of the town of North Providence for the past 4 years. I humbly ask the residents for their continued support and their vote for my re-election on November 4th, 2014. Thank you.
This upcoming election on November 4th is about positive change in our town government. For far too long, our community has been stifled from growth due to personal differences and political agendas. We have to move forward from the old way of politics and realize that there's a better future for our town, a future that is bright for us and for generations to come. We need true leadership that will work in our best interest 100% of the time. Without conflict, leadership as voices that of the people will bring our town residents together and allow us to regain our once revered community. My vision for North Providence is a small town with big pride. We need to jumpstart our local economy with new and creative ideas that make our town more affordable for both small businesses and our residents. We need to ensure that the safety and quality of life for all members of our community is at the heart of all of our elected officials. Our local government needs to put their personal and political differences aside and work together to improve the conditions of our neighborhoods, roads, parks, and recreation facilities, as well as making sure that our schools are safe and well-maintained. Once I'm elected as councilor at large, I will work with all of our elected officials without prejudice, and to make sure that our community receives the representations and the results that we deserve from our local government. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a decision to make on November 4th. I can tell you that I will work in your best interest 100% of the time. You can assure that I am no rubber stamp for anybody, regardless of what my opponent thinks over here, or anybody else may think. I'm my own person. I've always been my own person. I'll continue to be my own person. No one's going to tell me how to vote except for the residents of this town. I'm going to carry out your will. Come November 4th, once elected, when you need somebody to represent you and not get tied up in this politics, I'm not tied up in the politics. They can spin it however they want. If you want to support me, I'll take the support from Mrs. Brady. If she'd like to support me, that's fine. The bottom line is, we need people that are looking out for our best interests. Mrs. Brady, due to conflict, she's a very nice lady. I like Mrs. Brady, the town resident. But as for Mrs. Brady, the politician, we can't afford to continue that way.
Thank you. Both these candidates have put themselves before you. I don't think it was a pleasant evening for either of them, totally. Let's give them a huge...
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.